I'll write part 1 of your story in approximately 1,000 words using simple, basic English in third-person style. I'll create this as a separate document without headings as requested. Artifact ID, HFY Story Part 1 type, text markdown. Title They thought humans were quiet. Then the fleet arrived. Part 1. The Arcanian ship emerged from the darkness of space, its sleek hull reflecting the distant light of Earth's sun. Inside the massive vessel, Commander Volthar stood before the viewing screen, 6-fingered hands clasped behind his back. His pale blue skin wrinkled around his eyes as he studied the small blue planet. "So this is where the new species dwells," he said. "Unremarkable." Chief Scientist Zigtal moved to stand beside him. Unlike the commander, her excitement was obvious. "They call themselves humans. We've been monitoring their communications for 30 Earth years. They're fascinating in their way." "Dangerous?" Volthar asked. Zigtal made a dismissive gesture with her long fingers. "They fight among themselves constantly, but their weapons are primitive. They've barely reached their own moon. No faster than light travel, no energy weapons. They pose no threat to the collective. Yet they've survived despite their limitations," Volthar noted. "They are survivors, yes, but they are quiet compared to other species we've encountered. They fight small wars, but they lack the aggressive expansion we've seen in others. I've labeled them the quiet ones in my report." Volthar nodded. "The Council wants diplomatic contact established. They believe these humans might be useful allies against the Zever Empire someday." "Or useful servants," Zigtal added with a small smile. On Earth, in the United Nations headquarters in New York, leaders from around the world gathered in an emergency session. The giant screens showed the alien ship now in orbit around their planet. Panic had spread through cities worldwide when the vessel first appeared. Now, 3 days later, the aliens had finally sent a message. They wished to meet. John Miller, the newly appointed Earth ambassador to the aliens, stood at the podium. His gray hair and weathered face showed the stress of the past days. "The Arcanians claim to come in peace," he said. "They have invited a small delegation to meet aboard their ship tomorrow. I will lead this delegation." In the front row, Lisa Wright frowned. As the head of global security, she had spent the last 72 hours reviewing what little they knew about the aliens. "We know nothing about them," she said. "This could be a trap." Miller nodded. "It could be, but they could have attacked already if that was their plan. We have to take this chance to establish peaceful contact." The next day, the small shuttle carried Miller, Wright, and 3 others toward the massive Arcanian vessel. Wright looked out the window at Earth below them, blue and peaceful. "It looks so small from here," she said quietly. Miller followed her gaze. "That's our home, everything we've ever known. And now we're about to meet beings from another world. This changes everything." The shuttle docked with the alien ship. When the doors opened, the humans got their first look at the Arcanians. Tall and slender, with blue skin and large dark eyes, they moved with grace in the ship's artificial gravity. Zigtal stepped forward. "Welcome aboard the collective vessel Distant Horizon. I am Chief Scientist Zigtal. We are pleased to meet the representatives of Earth." Miller stepped forward. "I am John Miller, appointed ambassador from Earth. We come in friendship and hope for peaceful relations between our peoples." The meeting lasted hours. The Arcanians were polite but clearly believed themselves superior. They spoke of their collective that spanned hundreds of star systems. They mentioned their enemies, the Zever Empire, only briefly. They offered technological exchanges but were vague about details. Later, back in the shuttle returning to Earth, Wright voiced her concerns. "They're hiding something. Did you notice how they avoided questions about their weapons? About their conflict with the Zevers?" Miller nodded. "I noticed they see us as children, harmless and not very bright. That could work to our advantage," Wright said. "If they underestimate us, we might learn more than they intend to share." Over the next weeks, the Arcanians established an embassy in Geneva. They began limited technology exchanges, offering medical advancements and improved solar energy collection. But advanced propulsion systems, weapons, and shield technology were not shared. In a secure room beneath the Pentagon, Wright met with General Paul Howard and other military leaders from around the world. "The Arcanians are keeping us in the dark about their real capabilities," Wright said. "They're studying us but limiting what we learn about them." Howard nodded. "My scientists say the technology they've shared is impressive but outdated by their standards. They're giving us scraps from their table." "We need to prepare," Wright said. "Not for war, necessarily, but for the possibility that their intentions aren't entirely peaceful." "How do we prepare against a species centuries ahead of us?" asked General Wei from China. "We pool our resources," Wright answered. "We learn everything we can from what they've shared. We watch, we listen, and we develop our own technologies in secret." 6 months after first contact, the Arcanians announced they were establishing a small outpost near Jupiter. For scientific research, they claimed no humans would be allowed to visit. In his private office, Miller received this news with a frown. He turned to Wright, who had just entered. "They're expanding their presence in our solar system without asking permission," he said. Wright nodded. "They don't think they need our permission. In their eyes, we're just primitives who happen to live here." "What's our response?" "Officially, we express mild concern but accept their explanation. Unofficially?" Wright placed a folder on his desk. "The world's governments have agreed to begin a joint space defense program. We're calling it Project Guardian." Miller opened the folder and scanned the contents. "They'll notice if we start building warships. Not warships, research vessels, explorer craft, mining operations in the asteroid belt. All perfectly innocent. Activities that will help us develop the technologies we need." Miller closed the folder. "The Arcanians called us the quiet ones in their reports. They think we're docile." Wright smiled slightly. "Then we'll stay quiet for now. We'll listen. We'll learn, and we'll prepare." On the Arcanian outpost near Jupiter, Commander Vulthar looked at the reports from Earth. The humans were developing some new technologies based on what had been shared, but nothing concerning. They remained focused on their small conflicts and problems. "The human situation is well in hand," he reported back to the Collective Council. "They pose no threat and may prove useful in the future. They remain quiet and cooperative." The Council was pleased. The humans would make good allies, or servants, in the coming conflict with the Zevor Empire. The quiet ones would follow the EA Collective's lead, as all lesser species should. Little did they know that beneath the surface of Earth's moon, the first secret shipyard was already under construction. I've written part 1 of They Thought Humans Were Quiet, Then the Fleet Arrived in a separate document. The story is approximately 1,000 words and written in third-person style with simple, basic English as requested. There are no headings in the document. The narrative introduces the Arcanian aliens who discover Earth and consider humans to be quiet, docile, and technologically primitive. It establishes key characters like John Miller, Lisa Wright, Commander Vulthar, and Chief Scientist Ziegtal, while setting up the premise that humans are secretly preparing for potential conflict, despite appearing cooperative. Would you like me to continue with part 2 of the story? Or would you like to make any changes to part 1? I'll write part 2 of your story in approximately 1,000 words using simple, basic English in third-person style. I'll create this as a separate document without headings as requested. Artifact ID Bash HFY Story, Part 2, Type, Text, Markdown, Title. They thought humans were quiet. Then the fleet arrived, Part 2. 20 years had passed since the Arcanians first arrived. Earth had changed in ways that were visible, and in ways that remained hidden. New cities gleamed with technology based on Arcanian designs. Vehicles moved without burning fuel. Diseases that once killed millions were now easily cured. But beneath the lunar surface, far from Arcanian observation posts, humans worked on their greatest secret. Admiral Frank Carter moved through the massive underground chamber, his footsteps echoing on the metal walkway. Below him, engineers and workers swarmed over the hull of a ship unlike any humans had built before. It was the 10th such vessel constructed in the secret facility. How soon until she's ready? Carter asked. Kate Walsh stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the ship. Once a brilliant engineer working on clean energy, she now led the propulsion team for what they called the Ghost Fleet. 2 more weeks, she said. We've made improvements to the drive system based on what we learned from the last one. Carter nodded. And the Arcanians suspect nothing. They still think we're studying their outdated engine designs. They have no idea we've moved so far beyond what they shared. The Admiral smiled. Good. They still call us the quiet ones in their reports. Let them, Walsh said. Being underestimated is our greatest advantage. Elsewhere in the solar system, a small Earth science vessel approached the rings of Saturn. It was one of many such ships that now moved through the solar system, all with their stated peaceful purposes. The Arcanians paid little attention to them. On the bridge, Commander Alan Beck watched as his crew performed their official mission, collecting ice samples from Saturn's rings. But the real mission was happening in a sealed compartment below. How's our friend doing? Beck asked his second-in-command. Lieutenant Greg Harris checked his tablet. The probe is working perfectly. It's gathering all the data we need on the Arcanian outpost. And they can't detect it? Harris shook his head. They don't even know to look for it. Their sensors aren't designed to find something so small and quiet. Beck nodded, satisfied. Every bit of information helps. We need to know everything about them before we can protect ourselves from them. The probe was just one of hundreds secretly deployed throughout the solar system. While the Arcanians watched for large ships or weapons, these tiny observers studied their technology, their weaknesses, and their plans. On Earth, in a secure room deep beneath Geneva, Lisa Wright, now director of the United Earth Defense Force, met with leaders from around the world. 20 years older but still sharp, she stood before a holographic display of the solar system. The Arcanians have expanded their presence, she said, pointing to red dots scattered through the display. They now have 7 major outposts and dozens of smaller ones, all without asking our permission. President Diane Powell frowned. They still act as if they own our system. Because they believe they do, Wright replied. In their 20 years of observing us, they've seen only what we wanted them to see. A species slowly adopting their technology, grateful for their help. Meanwhile, we've built nearly 300 ships, Powell said. Hidden factories throughout the asteroid belt, training facilities on Mars' far side, all without their knowledge. The Ghost Fleet exists because of all your nations working together, Wright said to the assembled leaders. Something that would have seemed impossible before the Arcanians arrived. When will we reveal ourselves? Asked the Chinese premier. Wright's face grew serious. Only if we have no choice. We're still not their equal in numbers or technology, but we're closer than they could ever imagine. Near Jupiter, in the main Arcanian outpost, Commander Volthar, now the senior Arcanian in the solar system, reviewed reports from his staff. 20 years had aged him, but his position had only grown more powerful. The humans continued to develop along expected lines, reported his aide. Their space presence has expanded, but only with research vessels and small habitats, no military capability worth noting. Volthar nodded, barely interested. And the new directive from the Council? The war with the Zevors goes poorly in the Orion sector. The Council wishes to establish larger bases in this system and begin recruiting humans for support roles. Not as warriors, surely. Volthar laughed. No, Commander. As laborers, medical staff, and basic crew. Tasks suitable for their limited abilities. They'll agree, Volthar said confidently. They've never refused any of our requests. There is the matter of the number of humans needed. The Council requests 2 million for the first phase. Volthar waved a hand dismissively. They have billions. They'll hardly notice. Prepare the formal request to their leaders. Back on the Sao Moon, Admiral Carter received the news with a grim expression. The Arcanian request had arrived, demanding 2 million humans for their war effort. They don't even pretend it's a request, he said to Walsh. It's a demand. What will Earth's response be? She asked. Officially, President Powell will express concern about the number but agree to begin the process. She'll ask for time to select and prepare the people. And unofficially, Carter's eyes hardened. Unofficially, this changes everything. We're no longer preparing for a possible threat. The threat is here. He turned to the viewport overlooking the vast underground chamber where 5 massive warships hung in the artificial gravity. How soon can the first battle group be ready? He asked. Walsh checked her tablet. 36 ships are fully operational. Another 40 can be ready in 2 weeks. Begin the final preparations, Carter ordered. If the Arcanians try to take our people by force, they'll discover we're not as quiet as they thought. In orbit around Earth, the Arcanian diplomatic vessel received President Powell's carefully worded response. The ship's communication officer relayed it to Volthar at the Jupiter outpost. The humans ask for 6 months to prepare their first shipment of workers, the officer reported. They wish to select appropriate candidates and provide basic training. Volthar made a sound of amusement. Always so eager to please. Give them 3 months, no more. The council is impatient. Yes, Commander. Shall I inform them that we'll begin constructing transport ships immediately? Do so, and tell them we'll be establishing a larger military presence in Earth orbit. For their protection, of course. Of course, Commander. As the Arcanian ship transmitted its response, a tiny, undetected probe attached to its hull recorded everything. The data streamed to a hidden receiver on Earth's moon, where Admiral Carter and the leaders of the Ghost Fleet received it. 3 months, Carter said quietly. Then they start taking our people. We knew this day would come, Walsh replied. The real question is, are we ready? Carter looked once more at the ships waiting in the lunar hangar. 20 years of secret work. 20 years of reverse engineering Arcanian technology and improving upon it. 20 years of humanity working together toward a single goal. We're as ready as we'll ever be, he said. Alert all Ghost Fleet commanders. Operation Awakening begins now. I've completed part 2 of They Thought Humans Were Quiet Then. The fleet arrived in a separate document. The story is approximately 1,000 words and written in third-person style with simple, basic English as requested. There are no headings in the document. This part takes place 20 years after first contact and shows how humans have been secretly preparing while appearing docile to the Arcanians. It introduces Admiral Frank Carter and Engineer Kate Walsh, who are key figures in the Ghost Fleet project. The conflict escalates when the Arcanians demand 2 million humans to serve in their war against the Zevors, forcing humanity to accelerate their plans for defense. Would you like me to continue with part 3 of the story? Or would you like to make any changes to part 2? I'll write part 3 of your story in approximately 1,000 words using simple, basic English in third-person style. I'll create this as a separate document without headings as requested. Artifact, HFY Story, Part, Type, Text Markdown, Title. They thought humans were quiet. Then the fleet arrived. Part 3. The Arcanian ships appeared in Earth orbit without warning. 7 massive vessels, each carrying enough firepower to destroy a city. Their message was simple. The waiting period was over. The collection of human workers would begin immediately. In the White House Situation Room, President Diane Powell sat with her advisors, watching the ships on the large screen. They're moving faster than they said they would, she said, her voice calm despite the tension in the room. Lisa Wright nodded. They never intended to wait 3 months. That was just to keep us quiet while they prepared. How many ships do they have in our system now? Powell asked. 32 that we know of, Wright answered. Mostly around Jupiter and Saturn, but they're moving more toward Earth. Powell took a deep breath. Send the response we prepared. Tell them we're surprised by their early arrival but are cooperating fully. Ask for 1 more week to finalize preparations. And the real preparations? Wright asked quietly. Contact Admiral Carter. Tell him it's time. Across the solar system, hidden ships received the coded message. In the lunar base, Admiral Carter stood in the command center, surrounded by his officers. This is it, he said. The moment we've prepared for. The Arcanians have shown their true intentions. They see humans as resources to be used, not allies to be respected. He turned to Kate Walsh. Are the new drives ready? She nodded. All ships are equipped. They'll never see us coming. Then begin Operation Awakening. All ships to battle stations, but remain hidden. Wait for my signal. On Mars, a small human colony had been established years earlier. The Arcanians had permitted it, seeing no harm in letting humans take their first steps to another planet. Now, Arcanian soldiers landed, outside the main habitat dome. The colony administrator, Peter Wilson, met them at the airlock. He was a tall man with a calm demeanor that hid his true feelings. We weren't expecting your arrival, he said to the Arcanian captain. Your expectations are irrelevant, the captain replied. Your colony has been selected for immediate recruitment. 500 humans from this settlement will join the collective's war effort. Wilson kept his face neutral. That's half our population. We can't survive with so few people. The Arcanian captain stared at him with cold eyes. That is not our concern. Gather your people in the main dome. Those selected will leave immediately. And if we refuse, the captain raised a hand device. A moment later, a beam of energy shot from one of the ships overhead. It struck a small outlying dome, which exploded in flames. Thankfully, it was only a storage facility. That was empty, the captain said. The next will not be, do you understand? Wilson nodded slowly. I understand perfectly. Inside the habitat, Wilson sent a message to Earth. It contained only 3 words. Mars under attack. In lunar orbit, hidden by technology the Arcanians didn't know humans possessed, Commander Olivia Martinez received the message from Mars. Her ship, the Defiant, was one of the newest in the Ghost Fleet. She immediately contacted Admiral Carter. They've started taking people from Mars colony, she reported. Wilson sent the alert. Carter's face on the screen was grim. We can't wait any longer. Your battle group is closest. Move to defend Mars immediately. Yes, sir, Martinez replied. What about revealing ourselves? That time has passed. Show them what humans are truly capable of. Martinez turned to her crew. Battle stations. Power up all systems. We're going to Mars. 5 ships, previously invisible to Arcanian sensors, suddenly appeared in space near the moon. Their hulls were sleek and black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. They moved with incredible speed, faster than any human ship the Arcanians had seen before. On the Arcanian command ship orbiting Earth, an alarm sounded. The sensor operator looked up in confusion. Commander, we're detecting unknown vessels leaving Earth's moon. They're moving toward Mars at high speed. Commander Volthar frowned. Human ships? Impossible. They don't have that kind of technology. The readings are clear, sir. 5 vessels, unlike anything in our records of human capabilities. Volthar's mind raced. Send a message to our forces at Mars. Warn them of possible interference and dispatch 2 of our ships to intercept. On Mars, the situation was growing tense. The colonists had been gathered in the main dome, watching as Arcanian soldiers began selecting people for removal. Families were being separated. Children were crying. Peter. Wilson stood before his people, trying to keep them calm. Do not resist, he told them. That's what they want, an excuse. The Arcanian captain watched with cold efficiency. You are being reasonable, Administrator. Perhaps you will be allowed to remain and keep order among those left behind. Wilson said nothing, but his eyes burned with quiet fury. Suddenly, an Arcanian soldier rushed to the captain, speaking urgently in their language. The captain's expression changed to one of surprise, then anger. What ships? He demanded in English. What are you hiding, Administrator? Before Wilson could answer, the ground shook. Outside, through the transparent dome, they could see one of the Arcanian ships exploding in the thin Martian atmosphere. The captain grabbed Wilson by the throat. What have you done? Wilson smiled for the first time. Nothing. We're the quiet ones, remember? Above Mars, Commander Martinez's ships engaged the Arcanian vessels. The Ghost Fleet ships moved with incredible speed and precision, firing weapons that cut through Arcanian shields like they weren't there. They're trying to call for help, Martinez's communications officer reported. Block their signals, Martinez ordered. Don't let them warn the others. The battle was shockingly brief. The Arcanians, caught by surprise, could not match the speed or firepower of the human vessels. Their technology, which they had kept secret from humans, was suddenly facing weapons designed specifically to counter it. In the Martian colony, the Arcanian captain received no response from his ships. He turned to his soldiers. Kill them all. Make an example of this colony. But before they could act, the dome's airlock opened. Human soldiers in advanced combat armor rushed in, weapons ready. Their suits were unlike anything the Arcanians had seen humans use before. "Drop your weapons," called their leader, a woman with captain's insignia. "You're surrounded." The Arcanians, believing in their superiority, fired instead. The battle inside the dome was as brief as the one in orbit. The human soldiers moved with practiced precision, their weapons cutting through Arcanian armor. When it was over, the Arcanian captain was the only one left alive, held at gunpoint, before Peter Wilson. "Impossible," the captain gasped. "You are primitive, quiet, weak." Wilson shook his head. "We were never weak. We were patient. We were learning. And now, we're no longer quiet." Above Mars, Commander Martinez received a transmission from Admiral Carter. "Mars is secure," she reported. "All Arcanian forces have been defeated." "Well done, Commander," Carter replied. "But this is just the beginning. The Arcanians at Jupiter have detected the battle. They're sending their main fleet." "How many ships?" 20. "They'll reach Mars in 6 hours. Martinez smiled. "Then we'd better get ready to greet them properly." On his flagship near Jupiter, Commander Volthar received the disturbing news. The Mars outpost had gone silent. 5 unknown ships had been detected. The humans were not behaving as expected. "Launch the main fleet," he ordered. "I will lead it myself. It's time to remind these humans of their place." Little did he know that across the solar system, hundreds of Ghost Fleet ships were emerging, from hiding, ready for the battle to come. The quiet ones had found their voice, and it was about to become a roar. I've completed part 3 of They Thought Humans Were Quiet. Then the fleet arrived, in a separate document. The story is approximately 1,000 words and written in third-person style, with simple basic English as requested. There are no headings in the document. This part shows the escalation of conflict as the Arcanians begin forcibly taking humans from Mars colony, which triggers the first revelation of humanity's secret fleet. Commander Olivia Martinez leads the first strike against Arcanian forces at Mars, surprising them with advanced technology they didn't know humans possessed. The part ends with Commander Volthar dispatching the main Arcanian fleet toward Mars, unaware of the full extent of the human forces waiting for them. Would you like me to continue with part 4 of the story, or would you like to make any changes to part 3? I'll write part 4 of your story in approximately 1,000 words using simple basic English in third-person style. I'll create this as a separate document without headings as requested. Artifact ID, HFY Story, Part 4, Type, Text, Markdown, Title. They Thought Humans Were Quiet. Then the fleet arrived. Part 4. The Arcanian flagship, Eternal Dominion, led a fleet of 20 warships toward Mars. Commander Volthar stood on the bridge, his anger barely contained. For 20 years he had reported that humans were docile, primitive, and easily controlled. Now his reputation was at stake. "Show me these human ships again," he ordered. The screen displayed images captured before the Mars outpost went silent. The black, sleek vessels looked nothing like the crude ships humans had been building under Arcanian observation. "Where did they get this technology?" Volthar demanded. His science officer looked troubled. "Unknown, Commander. The design appears to incorporate some collective principles, but with modifications we've never seen. They reverse-engineered our technology," Volthar realized. All these years, while appearing to be simple students, they were studying us. "That would require remarkable scientific ability," the science officer said. "We believed humans lacked such capacity." Volthar's eyes narrowed. "We were wrong." Near the orbit of Mars, Commander Olivia Martinez's 5 ships waited. They had been joined by 15 more vessels that had raced from hidden bases in the asteroid belt. Still, they were outnumbered. "The Arcanian fleet will arrive in 30 minutes, her tactical officer reported. Martinez nodded. "Any word from Admiral Carter?" "Yes, Commander. The main fleet is moving into position behind Saturn. They'll let the Arcanians pass, then cut off their retreat." Martinez smiled. "Perfect. We just need to hold them here long enough." She turned to her communications officer. "Prepare a channel. When they get close enough, I want to speak to their commander." On Earth, President Powell addressed an emergency session of the United Nations. On screens around the world, people watched as she revealed the truth that had been hidden for 20 years. "Today, the Arcanians showed their true intentions," she said. "They came not as friends but as conquerors who saw us as nothing more than resources to be used. For 20 years we have prepared in secret for this moment." She gestured, and the screen behind her showed images of the Ghost Fleet ships. "While the Arcanians thought we were studying their outdated technology, we were creating our own. While they thought we were building simple research vessels, we were constructing a fleet. While they thought we were quiet, we were planning." Around the world, people reacted with shock, fear, and then fierce pride as they learned of humanity's secret defense. In lunar orbit, Admiral Carter watched the Arcanian fleet approaching Mars on his tactical display. His own ship, the Vigilant, was the command center for the entire Ghost Fleet. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said his executive officer. Carter nodded. "Tell Battle Groups 2 and 3 to hold position behind Saturn. Battle Group 4 should remain hidden near Jupiter. We'll let Volthar commit to Mars before we reveal our full strength. And if Martinez's group can't hold them, they will," Carter said confidently. "They just need to hold long enough." The Arcanian fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Near Mars, immediately their sensors detected the 20 human vessels waiting for them. "Only 20 ships," Volthar said with satisfaction. "This will be quickly resolved." His tactical officer wasn't so confident. "Commander, these ships are unlike any human vessels we've encountered. We should approach with caution." "Nonsense. They may have stolen some of our technology, but they lack the experience to use it effectively. Prepare all weapons." Before the order could be carried out, a communication came through. "Arcanian Fleet, this is Commander Olivia Martinez of the United Earth Defense Force. You have entered restricted space. Withdraw immediately." Volthar laughed. "Put her on screen." Martinez's face appeared calm and confident. "Human," Volthar said. "You are outnumbered. Surrender your ships and return our prisoners, or we will destroy you." Martinez's expression didn't change. "Commander Volthar, I assume? You're operating under several misconceptions. First, we're not outnumbered. Second, your forces on Mars surrendered to us, not the other way around. And third, we are no longer taking orders from the Arcanian Collective." Volthar's face darkened with anger. "You dare to speak to me this way? You whose species has barely left its own planet?" "That's another misconception," Martinez replied. "We've been all over this solar system for years. You just didn't notice, because you were too busy believing your own reports about the quiet ones." She leaned forward slightly. "This is your only warning. Leave our system now." Volthar cut the communication. "Fire on the lead ship. Show them what happens when primitives challenge the collective." The Arcanian vessels opened fire. Their energy weapons streaked toward Martinez's ship, but instead of striking their target, the beams seemed to bend around it, missing completely. "What happened?" Volthar demanded. "Unknown, Commander," his tactical officer replied, clearly shocked. "Their defensive systems are unlike anything in our records." "Fire again. All ships concentrate fire." The Arcanians launched a full assault. Some shots did hit the human vessels, but their hulls absorbed or deflected most of the energy. Then, the human ships began to move. They split into smaller groups, moving with incredible speed and coordination. They fired weapons that seemed designed specifically to penetrate Arcanian shields. 3 ships heavily damaged, Commander," the tactical officer reported, his voice tense. "Their weapons are targeting our shield generators with precision. Volthar couldn't believe what he was seeing. These couldn't be human ships, it wasn't possible. "Launch all fighters," he ordered. "Surround them." Hundreds of small Arcanian fighter craft poured from the larger ships. They swarmed toward the human vessels, expecting to overwhelm them with numbers. Then something unexpected happened. From the surface of Mars and from hiding places among the asteroids, small human fighter craft appeared. They were tiny, agile, and piloted with remarkable skill. Lieutenant Susan Clark led the fighter squadron from Mars. Her small craft danced between the larger Arcanian fighters, her weapons finding weak points that 20 years of study had identified. "Stay in formation," she ordered her pilots. "Remember the training. They're bigger, but we're faster." The space around Mars became a chaotic battlefield. Arcanian ships, confident in their superior technology, found themselves facing an enemy that had studied them for decades and designed weapons specifically to counter them. On the Eternal Dominion, Volthar watched in disbelief as the battle turned against his forces. "This is impossible," he said. "They're just humans." Suddenly, his communications officer called out, "Commander, we're detecting more ships." "Many more ships." Volthar turned to the tactical display. From behind Saturn, a massive fleet of human vessels was emerging. Hundreds of ships, far more than he had believed humans could possibly build in secret. "It's a trap," he realized too. 8. "They lured us here." Admiral Carter's voice came through on all Arcanian frequencies. "Arcanian Fleet, this is Admiral Frank Carter of the United Earth Defense Force. You are surrounded. Your choices are simple. Surrender or be destroyed." Volthar stared at the screen in shock. The humans had never been quiet. They had been listening, learning and planning. And now the full power of humanity was revealed. "Signal the fleet," he ordered, his voice hollow. "Fall back to Jupiter. We need reinforcements." But as his damaged ships tried to retreat, they discovered that human vessels had positioned themselves to cut off their escape route. The trap was complete. In her ship, Commander Martinez watched as the Arcanian fleet found itself surrounded. "All ships target their engines," she ordered. "Let's make sure they can't run home to call for help." The battle for Mars had begun as a skirmish. Now it was becoming the first major engagement in a war that would reshape the galaxy's understanding. Of the species once called the Quiet Ones, I've completed part 4 of They Thought Humans Were Quiet. Then the fleet arrived in a separate document. The story is approximately 1,000 words and written in third-person style with simple, basic English as requested. There are no headings in the document. This part details the first major battle between the Arcanian fleet and humanity's ghost fleet near Mars. Commander Volthar leads the Arcanian forces, confident in their superiority, only to discover that humans have been studying Arcanian weaknesses for years and have designed ships and weapons specifically to counter them. The part ends with Admiral Carter's main fleet arriving to spring the trap, surrounding the Arcanians completely. Would you like me to continue with the final part 5 of the story, or would you like to make any changes to part 4? I'll write the final part 5 of your story in approximately 1,000 words using simple basic English in third-person style. I'll create this as a separate document without headings as requested. The battle near Mars continued for hours. Arcanian ships, once proud and powerful, now struggled against the human fleet. Commander Volthar watched from the bridge of the damaged Eternal Dominion as his forces were slowly defeated. "We've lost contact with 5 more ships, Commander," his tactical officer reported. "Our fighters are down to 30% strength." Volthar's face showed disbelief. How could they hide such a fleet? How could they develop this technology without our knowledge? "Sir, the human admiral is hailing us again." Volthar straightened his posture. Even in defeat, he would maintain his dignity. "Put him on screen." Admiral Frank Carter's face appeared. The human looked tired but determined. "Commander Volthar, enough of your ships have been destroyed to prove our point. We don't want to annihilate your entire fleet. Surrender now, and no more Arcanian lives need to be lost today." Volthar's pride wanted to refuse, but his logic told him this battle was lost. "If I surrender, what happens to my crew?" "They will be treated fairly, according to galactic laws of war," Carter replied. "Unlike the way you plan to treat our people on Mars." The Arcanian commander considered his options. Behind the human ships near Mars, hundreds more human vessels had appeared from hiding places throughout the solar system. His fleet was surrounded, damaged, and outmatched. "I will surrender my fleet," Volthar said finally. "But know this, human. The Arcanian collective will not accept this defeat. They will send more ships, more forces than you can imagine." Carter's expression remained calm. "We're counting on it. We've prepared for that too." Throughout the solar system, the remains of the Arcanian fleet surrendered to human forces. Arcanian outposts that had been established over the past 20 years now found themselves surrounded by ships that had appeared as if from nowhere. On Jupiter's largest moon, Captain George Bennett led the assault on the main Arcanian base. His ships had been hiding within the gas giant's complex ring system for months, waiting for this moment. "All Arcanian personnel, this base is now under United Earth Defense Force control," he announced over all communication channels. "Surrender peacefully and you will not be harmed." The Arcanians at the base, cut off from their fleet and shocked by the sudden appearance of advanced human ships, surrendered without firing a shot. Similar scenes played out across the solar system. The Ghost Fleet emerged from hiding places in the asteroid belt, beneath the surfaces of moons and from within the atmospheres of gas giants. 20 years of preparation were revealed in a single day. On Earth, crowds gathered in cities around the world to watch the news. Video from the battle showed human ships moving with incredible speed and precision, using technologies that no one outside the Ghost Fleet project had known existed. In the White House Situation Room, President Powell received updates from across the solar system. "All Arcanian forces have surrendered or been neutralized," Lisa Wright reported. "We control the entire solar system for the first time." Powell nodded. "And their reinforcements? Our long-range sensors detect multiple Arcanian fleets approaching. The nearest is 3 days away. A much larger force will arrive in 2 weeks. Then we have work to do," Powell said. "The Arcanians need to understand that we are not their servants or their enemies. We are their equals, and it's time they recognized that." In lunar orbit, Admiral Carter supervised the transfer of Commander Volthar to a secure facility. The Arcanian leader walked with his head high, even in defeat. "You've surprised us, Admiral," Volthar admitted. "No species has ever hidden its true capabilities from the collective so successfully." "We had good teachers," Carter replied. "You showed us what was possible, then underestimated our ability to learn and improve upon it. A mistake we won't make again," Volthar warned. Carter smiled slightly. "That's what we're counting on. We don't want to fight the collective. We want to join the galactic community as equals, not servants. After this defeat, the Council will never agree. Then perhaps the Council needs to see more of what humans are capable of." In the days that followed, humanity revealed more of its hidden achievements. Bases throughout the solar system that had been constructed in secret now operated openly. The full extent of human technological development was finally displayed. On the edge of the solar system, a network of advanced sensors detected the approaching Arcanian reinforcements. These were not small outpost ships, but a true war fleet, sent to crush the human rebellion. Admiral Carter called a meeting of all fleet commanders. On the Vigilance Bridge, holographic projections showed the faces of officers from across the solar system. "The first wave of Arcanian reinforcements will arrive in 36 hours, Carter informed them. "This force is 3 times larger than the one we just defeated," Commander Martinez spoke up. "Our losses were minimal in the first battle. The fleet is ready, Admiral." "We won't just defend this time," Carter said. "We're taking the fight to them." He gestured, and a new tactical display appeared, showing positions far beyond Neptune. The Ghost Fleet was built for more than just defending Earth. It was built to show the galaxy that humans will not be quiet any longer. Kate Walsh, now the fleet's chief science officer, explained the plan. "We've identified a weakness in Arcanian faster-than-light drives. They must slow down at certain points during their journey. We'll intercept them at this deceleration point where they're most vulnerable." Captain Bennett nodded. "They won't expect us to leave our solar system. They think we're hiding here." "Exactly," Carter agreed. "And that's why we'll win. Again." And again, the Arcanians have underestimated us. It's time to show them, and the rest of the galaxy, exactly who they're dealing with. 2 days later, the Arcanian reinforcement fleet approached the solar system. Their commander, Supreme War, Leader Drazkor, was confident of victory. The reports of human ships were concerning but surely exaggerated. "Prepare for final approach," he ordered. "We will crush these primitives and make an example of their world." As the Arcanian ships began to decelerate at the designated point, their sensors suddenly detected hundreds of vessels appearing all around them. The human fleet had traveled beyond their own solar system to meet them. "Impossible," Drazkor exclaimed. "They can't have such range. They can't have such technology." Admiral Carter's message came through on all Arcanian channels. "Arcanian fleet, this is Admiral Frank Carter of Earth. Your forces in our system have been defeated. You face the same choice they did: retreat or be destroyed." Across the galaxy, news spread quickly. The species once dismissed as the Quiet Ones had defeated an Arcanian battle fleet and then traveled beyond their own system to confront a second fleet. It was unprecedented. In the Zevor Empire, war leaders who had been preparing to face the Arcanian collective suddenly reassessed their plans. If humans could challenge the Arcanians so effectively, perhaps they would make better allies than enemies on distant worlds. Other species heard the news with growing interest. The quiet species from the insignificant blue planet had revealed themselves to be anything but quiet. And in the depths of space, Admiral Carter looked toward the stars. "They thought we were quiet," he said softly. "They'll never make that mistake again." The fleet of Earth ships, visible at last after 20 years of silence, spread out against the backdrop of space. The galaxy would never be the same. I've completed the final part 5 of They Thought Humans Were Quiet. Then the fleet arrived in a separate document. The story is approximately 1,000 words and written in third-person style with simple, basic English as requested. There are no headings in the document. This final part shows the conclusion of the initial battle, with the Arcanian forces surrendering to the human fleet. It then depicts humanity taking control of the entire solar system and preparing to face an even larger Arcanian reinforcement fleet. The story concludes with Admiral Carter leading the Ghost Fleet beyond the solar system to intercept the Arcanian reinforcements, demonstrating that humans are not just defending their home but are ready to take their place as equals in the galactic community. The news of humanity's victory spreads across the galaxy, changing how other species view the Quiet Ones forever. This completes the 5-part story you requested. Is there anything about any of the parts you'd like me to revise or explain?